Hi everybody, my name's Kapowski. I'm out on a spontaneous solo overnight trip, and I'm out just trying a few new things that I've done to the hammock rig, and some mods to the tarp and the hammock, and some homemade pieces of gear that I've come up with recently. So let me take you over and show you what I got. Okay, this is the whole rig set up, ready to roll for the night. You can see I've got it set up in porch mode right now, and what that means is the tarp, which is a Jacks or better hex tarp, is set up with my trekking poles threaded through each of the loop on the ends of the tarp, and what that does is it lifts up the tarp, so on this side I can lay in the hammock right here and enjoy the view of what's behind us right now. So that's really nice on a day like this where you're not really threatened by storms or anything. So even if it does rain a little bit, I should be okay, and if it starts to get really bad, then I will just hunker down. So right here you can see how I've threaded the trekking pole through the loop of the tarp. This is a Jacks or better self-tensioning line for the guy line. And the reason for the self-tensioning line, this is a bit of rubber tubing which gives it elasticity. And the reason for that is this is a steel nylon tarp. So when this gets wet, it will stretch a little bit and the fabric will stretch out. And what this does is this keeps the tension of the tarp nice and taut. So at all times, you don't have to get up in the middle of the night and adjust it or anything like that. So that's why I use those. This is a bit of a loop that I've used a bowline knot. I tie 3 loops, and there's another one that's secured around the stake at the end. I tie 3 loops on all of my guy lines at the same points, and what that does is that gives me a couple different places where I can stake out. Now, if you come onto this side, you can see this side of the tarp is down much more than the other side, which is in porch mode, and that pull out right there, which is going out to the trees, is giving me much more interior space underneath the tarp for me. So that's very nice. I'll go into those pullouts in just a second up close. So we'll follow this self-tensioning line straight down. I'm actually not using, you can see there's one loop right there, there's another loop right here, and my third loop at the end. So what I've done here is I put a stake in the ground because you can't always put a stake where you want to. So what I do is I tie a marlin spike around my MSR groundhog stake, and what that does is it's a great little knot to know, and it's actually the same way I hang up my hammock suspension with the toggle. And then this is just a little bit of spectra that I put onto the MSR groundhog stake to just pull out at the end when I'm done to make it a lot easier. So we'll walk over here and we'll go into that pull out a little bit more. Now I have a pull out on the other side, on the porch side, and I'll show you that in just a second up close, but these are removable, and also you can slide these anywhere on the tarp you want. So I really like these a lot. And then what I've done is I didn't really have a good tree or anything that was real close right here, so what I did was I just went up with the shot cord, wrapped it around this higher branch to give me more height lift, and then I wrapped it back around through and then back out to this tree that's really close to the tarp, and then just a little stick toggle to hold it in place. So we'll come back to the other side here, and this pull out you can see is much closer to the edge, and the reason for that is it's giving me just a little bit more lift right there in porch mode in the middle to give me just a little bit, a couple more inches of view, which is really nice. Now I'm going to take you underneath the tarp so you can see, for one, that it has a continual ridge line that goes the full length of the tarp, and I will explain the ridge line setup in just a second. But for one, you can see that I'm fully standing up underneath this tarp. I'm a short guy, I'm only 5'6" or so, so it's not really that big of a deal, but to be able to stand up fully underneath your shelter is really nice. So I'm going to take you down here, and on the ridge line, This is actually a bug net Ridgeline. It's just shock cord, so it holds my bug net, which I've made at home, homemade piece of gear right there. And this just pulls all the way down to encapsulate the whole hammock, under quilt, everything. And basically what I've done is, there's a little bit of, see how well you can see it, there's a bit of gross grain there, and then a channel with some shock cord and a line lock, and you just lay in the hammock at night, pull the whole thing over top of you, and then just pull this line lock tight so it tightens up around your head. And this is actually a modular system. The whole thing does come off. At this end, I have a much smaller opening, but the same principle, just a much smaller, just enough to get around the bishop bag and the Whoopie, basically, just to take it off real fast if I don't need it. But you know, it basically stows all the way back here, you know, out of the way anyway. So, and then if I want to, I can always throw like some stuff in here, like my top quilt. You know, if I'm not ready for the top quilt, it hasn't gotten that cold at night, throw the top quilt in there, or just keep it on the ground like I normally do. And back to this shock cord Ridgeline for the bug netting. When you're sitting in a hammock with the bug net like that, and the bug net's not on, this tends to get in your way. And what I do is, I just have a little bit more of shock cord, and then a quick little knot up here that I just undid with one hand, and then you let it go, and it gets that back so I can put the bug net on, and it keeps the bug net out of my face. But if I were to sit down, and I'll show you, if I can sit down here, see it's kind of hitting my head, and I don't really like it there. So that's why I put that little extra little tie out to tie it up, get it out of my way. So that's why I do that. Come over here, and I'll show you how I set up the tarp. On this side, I don't know how well you're going to be able to see that, but it's just a little hook, and it's called a Dutch hook. It's made out of titanium, so you just wrap this line around the tree, hook it, and then you go down. You see here I've got some snake skins that are made out of bug meshing, the same that this is made out of. I just had some extra left over when I made that, so I made some snake skins for the tarp too, in lieu of my still nylon ones. And then I've also got just a prusik knot on each end of the tarp, tied to the tarp right there, so I can slide the tarp up and down the Ridgeline to center it over the hammock. Come back down this end, and basically another piece of hardware from Dutch. This is a Dutch fly. So after you've done the other end, you wrap this end around the tree, bring it back through, you hook it through the little hook right there, if you can see that, where my fingernail is. Then you pull it tight and wrap it through these teeth on the other side, and it holds nice and tight. You just basically just unravel that and it comes right down. It's great. I love those two pieces of hardware for the tarp setup. This is something that I've been doing for probably the past 4 or 5 hikes. This is my 2-liter platypus bladder, and what I've done is I've taken a rubber band, which I use a lot of these rubber bands for, you know, tying down things in my kit, wrapping things up, whatever. So I have a lot of these extra rubber bands, so when I'm not using them for whatever they're supposed to tie up, I use it for this. It's got a little stick toggle in there. It's actually hanging off my tarp, so what that's doing is pulling down with the weight of the water, adding some tension to my tarp while it's hanging there. And then down here is my water filtration method. This is a Sawyer inline filter. You can disconnect it right here, and the clean water will come right out of here, and you can actually fill up like a cup or wash your face or whatever using this, and then just clip it right back on. This tube is the bite tube, and what I've done here is I've just tied a little bit of shock cord there, and that just holds it in place. So while I'm laying in the hammock at night, all I have to do is reach up. This is my head end. All I have to do is reach up. I can grab it and I can pull it down. It pulls all the way through. See that? And then this is down by my face where I can get a nice drink. So I take a good swig, and then when I'm done with it, I just push it back up, and it stows right there perfectly. So that's a little tip. I haven't seen anyone else post that. You know, I'm sure someone maybe has done it somewhere, but it works really great for me. So if you want to try something like that, if you're using a bladder, give it a little shout. All right, here we've got a tool bag that I've made. This is for my items that I use at night: my headlamp, my lighter, chapstick, a knife, and then right here I have just a little carabiner with a blue night light to clip, and I can kind of slide that, you know, wherever I want on the Ridgeline. When I don't want these, I can just put them up and, you know, get them out of my way. Come back down here, the bug netting, which I showed you. I'll put that on in just a second to show you it working. This is the Bishop bag, which is just an old steel nylon bag, and I poked a hole in the bottom of it for my Whoopie to go through. And yeah, that's that. So let me show you my ground gear. Oh, man. Okay. So underneath here is my rain kilt / ground cloth. It's just an old tarp out of steel nylon that I cut to give me waist to knee rain protection, and I just sewed on some Velcro strips. Right now, since the ground's a little wet, I've actually got it so my foot pad, when I get out of the hammock, is on top of it, so it keeps it dry. This is actually it's a Gossamer Gear foam pad. It's really, really thin, but I can use this in case my underquilt gets wet for some crazy reason or something. I can use this as insulation in the hammock. It gets you a little sweaty on the back and stuff, which is why I don't use these, but in an emergency, it'll have to do. This is my lunch. I'll show you the lunch side first. It's a bagel, some Justin's peanut butter and jelly, some Fritos, and then on this side I have some good old Lance Choco lunch cookies. There's a drink mix in there, which you can't really see, a wet one, a paper towel, and then there's a piece of wax paper, which I used for a plate to put it all on. So there's my lunch. This is the camera I normally film on, but I brought another camera to film this trip, just to show you my camera and the stick pick which is on it, which connects it to my trekking pole for some awesome pictures. We'll come over here. This is just a book I'm reading. Not really important. This is my bowl, and then my entire cook kit: alcohol stove, pot, you know, cozy, all that fun stuff, spork, scrubber. This is my bear bag line with beaner, my small dinner for the night, my flavored drink bottle, my Crocs, which have been trimmed out right here, and I take the loop off the back. They weigh less and they breathe a little bit better, so. Right here, underneath my hammock to the left, will be my rain jacket, and I'll take my rain jacket off. You can see I have both of my quilts, my under quilt, which is a Jacks or Better Greylock 3, and then a top quilt, which is actually an old sleeping bag, a summer sleeping bag, which I've modified to a top quilt. I just basically cut off the hood and the zipper and hemmed it and rolled it and sewed it. So I really like top quilts as opposed to sleeping bags, so that's why I did that. I've actually done it to all my sleeping bags except one. So there's that. This is in a turkey bag, and this would go in the bottom of my pack, but it would also be inside of this trash compactor bag, which is the main waterproofing liner. This is just a bit of extra protection. My rain jacket, really, which covers everything, really isn't that important because a lot of times it doesn't get used, but it is a Marmot Super Mica. It's like a really expensive jacket. It's really thin. It's got pit zips and all that stuff, but a lot of times I don't even use it. This is my pillow, and it's actually, bring in close here, I've sewed some Velcro, and what's inside is my clothes bag. Now the clothes bag, normally this pillowcase would be inside the clothes bag when it's in my pack, and then when I get to camp I can take this out of my clothes bag and then put my clothes bag inside of this whole case here. You know, the whole thing opens up down the line, and then I just close it back up, and I got a nice pillow for the night. So that's another homemade piece of gear that I like. I do need to rig up something to have it hang in the hammock from some shot cord, but anyway. This is my poop kit, my toothbrush and toothpaste, my medicines, my repair kit, all my first aid, repair kit there. Yeah, that's that. And then there's my pack on the bottom, which is a Gossamer Gear Gorilla 2012, and that is all of that. So anyway, in further review, I don't really think I have anything else to show you, but oh, actually I'm looking at something right now. This is my steak bag. I actually just made this out of some silk, and I just loop it around there, and it just kind of hangs there, so I don't forget it, and I can just grab that when I pick up my steaks, you know, when I'm breaking down in the morning. So anyway, hope I have a good night, and I'm about to eat that lunch I just showed you. I am starving, so I'll see you next time on the trail.